So how do we do this? How do we put those principles into our everyday life, or into our routine life? Well, a few years ago, I was in my front yard and I was chopping down a tree. I had this dead tree, these branches that were hanging off, and I'm kind of too cheap to pay anybody to cut my own tree, so I've got a chainsaw, I've got a ladder, I can do it myself. Well, I'm up high, I'm like 17 feet high, past the ladder, just on the branches, and I'm cutting branches, and I cut the wrong branch, and it fell on top of me, and 17 feet, I fell out of this tree, and boom! Landed horizontal on the ground, chainsaw still running, stuck in the ground next to me. And I get up, and what's the first thing we do when we get up from an accident like that, or a bike ride or something? We check to make sure our body parts are still there. And so I did like a full body check-in. Toes, like, are there any toes off? Knees, everything's there. Hands, everything's still there. We check in with our bodies after something like that happens. It's natural, it's normal. The first thing we have to do in order to put this in place is we've got to take some time to check in. We've got to carve aside some time in life that we can do a true check-in. Not a check-in with the outside, but a check-in with the inside, a check-in with our hearts. We've got to ask ourselves the hard questions. Is what I'm doing in life really what I was supposed to do? What am I passionate about that I'm not doing anymore? As you get older a little bit, you ask yourselves, what did I do when I was in high school that I just did because it was so much fun, but now I don't make time for it anymore? We've got to get out to check in with our hearts to ask, is what I'm doing really giving me the life that I want? After we check in, then we've got to start building that into our routine. We come back from our getaway, and we've got to start thinking, how does this play out in my life? How do I take the principles that I thought about and apply them? And there's a great quote that I want to read you guys. It's about coming off the mountain and having this new perspective. If you've ever been on a peak, you can look around and you can see all the valleys. You can see all the things around you. You have this new perspective. We've gotten out. We've gotten a new perspective. What does that look like to come back home and to live that out? And the quote says this. It says, you cannot stay on the summit forever. You have to come down. So why bother in the first place? Just this. What is above knows what is below. But what is below does not know what is above. One climbs, one sees, one descends, one no longer sees, but one has seen. There is an art of conducting ourselves in the lower region by the memory of what we saw higher up. When one can no longer see, one can still know. Even when you step back into normal life, you still live out with the things that you know. You still live out with the things that you've discovered. We step out, we look in, and we live out. If you'll do this, it'll give you the confidence to approach life totally differently. You will find a success that you always dreamed of that looks a little bit different because you're being fully you. And I think it'll give you the ability to live and love differently, and it will be an amazing thing that you can pass on in your relationship with your explorers. Your adventure for that, it begins right now as you take the first steps into it.